I'm Stephen McAdams, and I'm the leader of the research theme Music, Perception and Cognition at CIRMMT. This theme brings together people primarily in the realms of acoustic signal processing and perceptual and cognitive psychology, as well as neuroscience, around what is going on in the brain and in the mind of a listener as they're listening to music, in a performer when they're preparing to play music, in a composer when he or she is creating music. People involved in this theme come from primarily from the University of Montreal and McGill University, in all these areas that I've just mentioned. And some of the kinds of themes that we explore are the perception of the different musical dimensions, like pitch and timbre and duration. There are derivatives in the realm of pitch. You have melody and harmony. In the realm of duration, you have rhythm and meter. In timbre, you can go off into the possibilities of understanding orchestration, and also development of new sounds with sound synthesis techniques. One of the aims of this area is to give musicians and composers and theorists handles on why it is that musical information is processed as it is in the human brain, or the way in which deficits due to brain damage or various kinds of congenital diseases influence positively or negatively musical capabilities. We also try to understand how people, not only how they perceive, but also how they learn to perceive music, how the brain sort of finds the structures of a given musical culture, growing up in that culture, and how that then affects the actual interpretation of music from other cultures. This links certain aspects of music perception and cognition to the realms of ethnomusicology, for example. In the realm of musical structure perception, we're very much interested in the understanding of formal functions in music. That is, how do you know, for example, whether you're in the middle, the beginning, or at the end of a musical phrase. We're also interested in what are the brain substrates of musical processing and musical understanding. A lot of work done both with brain imaging. Robert Zatorre, for example, at the Montreal Neurological Institute is understanding what parts of the brain are involved in various kinds of musical tasks, whether they're listening or performing. Using patients with various neurological problems. Isabelle Perez at the University of Montreal studies both congenital and acquired amusias. People have problems understanding certain aspects of music and not others, depending on the kind of brain lesion or the kind of problem that they have. We're also very much interested in the realm of perception. People working both in physiology and psychology, such as Dan Levitin at the psychology department, or Evan Balaban at the psychology department at McGill University, both of them. Working with acousticians who help us prepare complex stimuli for our experiments, such as Philippe Depard and Gary Scavone in the music technology group at McGill University. Another area, of course, is very important is the understanding of musical performance. And we have several researchers involved that are interested in not only how do you capture the movement of performers, such as Marcelo Wanderley in the music technology group at the Schulich School of Music at McGill, but also Carolyn Palmer, who is trying to understand how do performers program the movements that they make to create an expressive rendition of a musical structure they're trying to perform. Of course, in all these areas, science tries to move towards creating models of what is going on, and we have several people doing important modeling research, such as Godfried Toussaint, the School of Computer Science at McGill University, and Douglas Eck in the Département d'Informatique at the Université de Montréal. In addition to these areas, of course, it's very important to understand how these can be applied to various other themes. And so this particular theme has important interactions with the immersive systems group to try to understand what are the perceptual implications of broadband transmission of multimodal content. They have links with the motion capture groups for musical performance, and of course very important links with the sound modeling and acoustics group at CIRMMT when it concerns the various aspects of a signal that give rise to the dimensions that we perceive, such as pitch, timbre, and intensity and duration. Another problem that is of particular interest to us is the way that people actually represent the color of sounds in their own mind, and we do a lot of work around timbre perception, how that might apply to orchestration techniques, for example, or the way that musicians communicate with one another. I work in my own laboratory on timbre perception, but also the work in the laboratory of Caroline Traube at the University of Montréal in the Faculty of Music, trying to understand how it is that people sort of communicate sound quality to one another and use that in their own mental representation of the sounds they're trying to produce when they're making expressive gestures in music. There are very close collaborations as well in the realm of sort of developing perceptual techniques for various kinds of professionals, such as sound recording engineers. René Cannell, for example, works on areas that are trying to understand how can you train people to do very fine-grained listening when they're doing sound recording techniques, and also to recognize where there are problems that need to be adjusted when they're trying to do very fine-grained editing. In a slightly more technological realm, there are several members of this theme that are interested in the uses of virtual reality techniques for exploring the role of action and perception and their interaction in musical situations. Catherine Guastavino in the Graduate School for Information Science here at McGill, and people in my own laboratory are very much interested in these problems as well. One example of a particularly promising research project that brings together people from different disciplines within this research theme is a project being developed currently by Robert Zatori at the Montreal Neurological Institute and Marcelo Wanderley at the Music Technology Group here at McGill University. They're very much interested in trying to adapt musical instruments to be used in the fMRI scanner, so they can actually see what's going on in the brain of a performing musician as they are playing music. The problem with fMRI scanners is they have very strong magnetic fields, and most of the musical instruments that performers use today have ferromagnetic components, and so they cannot be used in those scanners. So Marcelo Wanderley is helping to develop instruments that can actually be played in the scanner by musicians. For example, a wind kind of instrument, a string kind of instrument, and a keyboard type of instrument.